Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Saturday Morning RPG Show. My name is Jordan, with a silent PH in the middle, and I'm joined always by my wonderful co-host, Sir Lucian, over at Sir Lucian Gaming. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I always pronounce it Jorphdan.
Do you? That's incorrect. Nobody does that.
Could we have Matt Mercer do an enunciation of your name for us on the show?
I could, yeah. Indestructible is in chat. Hello, Taryn. Nice to see you here. I haven't seen you here before. Welcome. Indestructible just launched a Kickstarter for his system that he's working on. Pretty exciting. Lots of new systems ever since the OGL wars that happened. We'll talk a little bit about that because Kobold Press just announced. I think it's not. Oh no, it's not Kobold Press. Who's doing Project Black Flag? Yeah, that's Kobold Press. So they did Tales of Valiant. We'll talk about that in a little bit too. But how are you? How's it going, Mr. Lucian?
Really good. It's finally. Most of you know I'm in the Michigan lands, and we have been kind of cold and rainy, cold and snowy all up and through right up into April. But this week is the first week that we're going to feel almost like summer-like temperatures. And I'm super excited about that because I'm ready for summer. I've been ready for summer since December, but I just want to be outside doing things in the sunshine, and we're finally really going to get to do it. So I'm super excited.
Nice.
Oh, one thing we're planning, here's something, I even put it in the notes. We are planning, check this out, May, coming up, we're doing a camping trip, but it's called a board game camping trip.
What?
Where the guys, we're picking a campground, all of us are bringing one board game that we bought and never got to play with anybody. We're going to bring it, and over that weekend, we're going to play those board games. It's going to be a board game camping trip.
I am all about that. That would be so cool. I like this.
Yeah, I hope it goes great.
There's certain games that'll work better for camping, I think. But like you probably don't want to bring like Imperium or Twilight Imperium.
I think somebody is.
I mean, maybe. I guess.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on the campsite.
Awnings.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we know how to camp because we were a medieval camping group, so we all had medieval tents and pavilions and things to set up. So we know how to think about an event and say, hey, we need a lot of space and a lot of things to do stuff and be ready for rain or wind or all this stuff. And so this is the type of group that's going to be going. So when they show up, they're going to be like, it's going to be like glamping, maybe is better. Okay. And an example, somebody's going to have their camper trailer with them. We're going to have big awnings. We're going to just have the full boat. So
I just have been pseudo glamping. We stayed at an Airbnb because they turned the water off at our house. You could see all the construction. I tried to hide it with this precious little box, but it's not working. But yeah, I just want to be back in my house. So, well, first of all, I want to talk about Grenar. Has patiently been waiting for us. He asked a question and nobody really realized. He wants to know, how do you pronounce Sahuagin? And I guess that is the answer. We looked at D&D Beyond.
There's the answer.
The D&D Beyond, Matt Mercer says Sahuagin on D&D Beyond. I've always said Sahagwin, and I'm realizing that's probably wrong, but I still like saying Sahagwin. So it's kind of like...
I always like the Gwyn at the end, too, like almost like a GWEN kind of Gwyn. I always did that when I said that word, too, because I didn't say it right until I looked it up.
Well, and I would argue there is no right way. I think a lot of, like, I take the Chris Perkins approach where they're like, I don't know, who cares? Like, do that. And in the age of the internet, it's kind of frustrating to be like, well, why do you say sigil when it's sigil? And it's, like, it can be this frustrating thing when we want to talk about the same thing and have the same verbiage. But I also remember, like, playing Final Fantasy for years and meeting people, and they're like, you call a Freet Ifrit? And I'm like, what? It's just kind of weird things where everyone had their own interpretation of some of those non-English, or no, I shouldn't say non-English, but just like obscure words, like didn't come with
pronunciations. The main character was Clud, right?
Yeah, it was Clud. Yeah.
Right.
He had the
big sword.
Yeah, I was trying to say Buster in a way that's funny, like the Buster sword. He had that big one. And it fought S words out because it was an S word weapon. Anyway, so
That's right.
I don't know. But yeah, I think you could just kind of do things. But I say Sahugwin. So
You just
Afreet is Arabic.
okay,
Yes,
totally,
Moa. I'm sorry.
totally off topic
Ridiculous.
now. You just said S class, and that made me think of all these games I've been playing that are Eastern inspired, Japanese, Korean inspired games. Why are weapons A class, B class, C class, but S class is above that? How does S get above ABC? Where does this come from?
I think S stands for super. So it's one of the it's a Japanese origin, I believe. But it's this idea of like, well, here you have like here's the best of the best, or here's, let's rank them. But then S tier, super, is like always wetter, and now we already I say super, Zris says S is special. So it's always
Special.
like, yeah. But you're right, I don't know.
Then it's
like
double S, and then when they really want to get you, like, oh no, but you got to get the triple S one.
CPG Gray just came out where he ranked the United States flags. It's a great video. If you're into flags, I like flags. If you're into flags, anyway, it was a great video because most of the flags in the United States are terrible, like state flags.
State flags, yeah.
They're designed poorly. They're awful. They're totally a second thought kind of a thing. And he does, S and then A, B, C, D, F. But then he was like, but we have to do a separate tier where it's like, you'll be SF or SA because every flag he ranks as an F, but then he wanted to rank those in how good they are. And I don't know, it was just funny.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Weird tangent done. Sorry.
Tangent done. Let's talk about the D&D Creator Summit. This was
the one we didn't go to.
Yes.
Just so
yeah,
clear.
it was weird. Like I wasn't invited. I have never been on Wizards of the Coast radar, and then I was like, okay, doesn't surprise me that I'm not invited. But then I was like, oh, I didn't even get invited to the virtual one, and I was like, oh, that's kind of sad too.
Anybody can be invited.
Because I was like, it's a Zoom link, give it to people. But it reaffirms that I am not on their radar in the slightest. Like I've reached out for press things, like Ted gets the books and stuff, and I don't know, other people get the books. Nat One Fun. He's been getting books and stuff like that, and I'm like, how do you do this? They're like, I just reached out via this email. They will not return anything from me. So I'm kind of like, that's fine. Beetle and Grimm, on the other hand, whoever runs their social media thinks I'm awesome, and I now think that guy is awesome. And so I don't even have it, but they just released a DM's Game Master's Journal, and they sent me a copy, and I'm gonna make a quick like short about it at some point. But boy, it's really cool. It's this really nice journal, and it's got like session 0, and it walks you through like, let's create a whole campaign, and then you kind of fill in what happens. Like Beetle and Grimm, you're making good products.
They make quality good stuff. Yeah,
so, I've never gotten anything from Wizards of the Coast. WizKids has sent me a few things, and then now Beetle and the Grimms. But anyway, there was a little of, like, frustration, I think, from the community of, like, why wasn't I invited, and blah, blah, blah. And then that turned into anger of, like, well, you're just a shill, and you're doing whatever WotC wants you to do. I know for a fact that is the furthest from the truth. A lot of these people love D&D and they want to they wanted to go. It's like, I mean, if WotC paid for me to go and help understand and kind of form this game that you love and this hobby, because like it or not, they are the entry point for, I want to say, 99% of roleplay RPG gamers. Like the people that love tabletop role-playing games, everybody knows about D&D. At one point you've played it. Maybe it's not the game for you, but like, I don't think there's people out there that are like, what? Dungeons and Dragons? I've only played Star Wars West End Games D6. Like, it doesn't happen, So I think it was awesome that they got to go. I think it was really cool. And I'm looking forward to some of the videos that are going to come out in the next week of their recaps and stuff. But from what I know so far, we just wanted to do some of the highlights that we learned. Yeah. Which was Planescape is coming out. We knew that. And it's going to be a box set like Spelljammer, which I'm not thrilled about. But we'll see. And
it could be good if it's like the adventure for the DM is a book, but then the other 2 books are the ones you can pass around to the players because it has items or magic stuff or player stuff or things that they can see. I like those types of box sets versus, the Spelljammer one was not really.
Well,
that
that's
way.
the thing, and I think that's why I'm worried, because Spelljammer was annoyingly bad. And it wasn't annoyingly bad because it was a box set. So I'm kind of like, I think I'm fine with that. But the fact that they're still going that route of like, oh, hey, we could, and maybe it'll all change. But the idea of like, here's the adventure, here's the player options, and here's the DM/monster book. I like that. That's cool because you can pass it around. But there's a part of me that really just wants it as one book, I guess. And maybe, I don't know. I was thinking about this with Old School Essentials, because Old School Essentials came out with, here's the referee tome and here's the player's tome, and it's 2 books and it's the entire game, and I love it. But they also came out with a box set of like, here's 6 to 8 different books. Like, oh, you need druid spells, here's the druid spell book. So again, at the table, kind of cool to be like, oh, you're playing a cleric, here's magic, here's this, you can kind of hang it around. And then I've been reading my Dying Earth stuff. And
yes,
the Dying Earth box set is also a box set. And I'm like, oh, yeah, this references the other book. And I put that down and I get the other one and I'm reading through it. Because it's like player options, but magic's in a separate book. And this is over here. I also wish the Dying Earth was just one book. And that the actual adventures, were just separate little books. But I think I don't know why they do that. I think they're going for a nostalgia thing, or maybe it's easier to print. It can't be. 3 books versus 1, that can't
box
be
set's
like
got to be a
cheaper.
nostalgia thing, because it used to be on the bookshelves and it was like a special edition way. And I do think it was like kind of a money thing for companies to say, well, we know people like this, so we're going to create a special edition with maybe cooler covers, and it's in a box set that's cool if you're really into the game. But if you just want the one book, you can buy it over here for this price, so they were like offering both, because they knew there's that group of people that will spend money no matter what it is, if they love it, right? If I love it, I will spend thousands of dollars on this thing no matter what it is. And I remember just special edition box sets were just more popular when things were on shelves that you would go and look at and say, like, you can get the normal one, but hey, look at this special edition one that you could also get. You're like, well, I want that one.
Exactly. And going back to Beetle and Grimm's, I feel like they're doing the box sets right, because Dragonlance, it's a book, but you don't get that book when you buy the Beetle and Grimm Dragonlance box set. You get the pamphlets that they cut up the book and they create individual
I think they're
books.
like a loot crate,
so,
more than I think of them as a box set.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Because you get like lots of extra stuff.
Yeah, that's what I like.
And so I guess my point is that you could, if you want that luxury kind of feel, like they kind of already do that. So I don't know. But it's going to be a box set. We'll see how they handle it. Because Spelljammer was a letdown. But it wasn't a letdown because it was a box set. It was just a letdown.
No.
So. Yeah. The big news out of a lot of this is a lot of people, or they were saying, Wizards of the Coast was saying that 1D&D will basically just be 5e. They're not going to change a bunch of stuff. They're not trying to give it a new name. And there was a lot of people back and forth that said, well, what are we supposed to call it? Like 1D&D's the playtest. Are you going to call it D&D 5.5, D&D 6e? And I don't think people realize that, like, Wizards never called it 5e. Like, in 2014, when it was released, they avidly wanted you to call it D&D. That's it. They don't want a number on it. They didn't want all this other stuff. But it's the fans who are like, oh, are we playing D&D? And you're like, yeah, I've only ever played, 3rd edition. Oh, well, we're playing 5th edition because it's not like 4th edition. It's really different. And you're like, okay. Mm-hmm. And so my logic was, whenever 1D&D will be released, the fans will say, hey, we're playing D&D, and they're like, oh, I've only ever played 5e. Are you playing the new one? Yeah, it's kind of like 5e, but has some minor tweaks. It's like 5.5. And so then, as a whole, the community would call it 5.5. Or it would be so different that we would call it 6th edition. So it's weird that we're arguing about what should we call it, when I'm like, it'll naturally figure itself out, guys. Yeah. Like, we don't...
And it's a unique problem with Dungeons & Dragons, because there are popular groups that still play certain versions. So when you play Dungeons and Dragons, or you're gonna sign up for a group at a comic book store or a library or whatever, you kind of have to know what version are they playing, because third edition is still, there's a popular community out there. You could be signing up for a third edition game. You could be signing up. Fourth edition, not so much, but there is still a community playing some fourth edition. You might get into a fourth edition game and not realize it. And then obviously Dungeons and Dragons now is mostly the fifth edition. So it's unique, I think, in that their old versions are still super popular. So what do you do when your old version is still popular? You still have a big group of people playing it, and you've got your new version, which is definitely different. So it's like, what do you do? But they seem adamant not to name, or they definitely did not want 6e. They definitely did not want 1D&D, even though they're the ones that kind of came up with the 1D&D.
It's the code name.
For the play test. Yeah, the code name.
Just like D&D Next was the code name for 5e. But like, I guess that's my point.
They don't want 5.5. They never liked they didn't like 3.5.
I don't think they want. Yeah, I don't think they like 3.5 either.
I didn't like that either.
And so it really, and this also probably stems from Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and then Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Second Edition.
Basic and Expert. Yeah, they caused this problem in the beginning.
TSR caused this back in the day. So but the fans will decide, and I think we need to not like it'll work itself out. If it is truly 100% backwards compatible, then maybe we will just call it 5e forever. I think now Wizards of the Coast wants us to call it 5e forever, so that everything is under a 5e brand, and it's not like, well, I'm not going to buy that 5e stuff because things. I think my construction people are here. I just heard the door.
A doorbell. Yeah.
Riff for a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yes. Well, everybody, welcome to the solo show of Sir Lucian. So, so kind of going on that a little bit too is that I know, or it seems like they don't really want to change that name, and your branding is so strong. Kickstarters are doing it. 5e's the description of the actual name that everybody's using, and it falls under their license, so they don't have to create that anymore and get away from that kind of fiasco that they released on everybody. So it kind of makes sense to me. I think every company goes through that idea of, we no longer, my company right now, the one I work at, is also doing this with their software. We own a lot of software, and they have a lot of these different names that used to be back in the day. It was common to say, oh, our software is named Infinity, or our software is named the Horizon, or nothing that describes what it does, but really just these kind of out there names. But now they're all coming back to just name it what it does. So then, what is this game? It's just Dungeons and Dragons. So just name it Dungeons and Dragons. That's what they want. And they always fight that versus giving it some other kind of name. But they go through these kind of cycles of marketing. And this feels like marketing executives coming in and wanting to do something with it, but it's a community and a client base that resists that. So I don't think they're going to have much traction.
And in the end, I think we'll just call it 5 or D&D 2, or not
Dungeons
D&D Dash 2. We'll just call it Dungeons and Dragons. So I don't know, but you're right. When you start going to cons or working with people, like, there's still a lot of people that play 3.5 and like it, And when I started D&D, 4th edition was out, and I didn't understand that it was like, it was different games. I thought it was just an evolution of the rule set. And so there was a lot of like, well, are we, and so we started playing D&D, and we were playing AD&D 2nd edition, and I'm like, but this is 2. Like, I know that there's a 4 out, and they're like, oh, well, we don't touch that. It's like, but you don't understand at the time. So anyway, my construction guy's here. I'm going to hot water today. Very excited. It's going to be great. But the point is, I guess, is that they just want it to be called D&D. I think Wizards has always wanted that, but they will not get that. The fans will decide. That was my point.
Yeah.
They're going to do more creator summits, they say. Judging by how this one went, and we'll find out more info as it comes out, I don't think it went exactly how they wanted, which could mean either more creator summits or less. It could be less of like, I don't think this is going to work out because content creators are not going to do they're not going to play the rules that we want them to play, or they're not part of like the big corporate machine. I should say that. Like there's a lot of like, you work with other companies and it's like, you're a big corporate machine, I'm a big corporate machine, and we kind of work together because we speak the same language. But you go to like YouTubers and independent publishers and stuff, and they're just like, I'm just a guy. I don't think I want, like I'm just a person. So I'm curious if they look at this as saying, wow, our approach was not the best in this situation. We need to go back and refine it for when we invite people again, or if they're just going to be turned off from creator summits. But I am very jealous of all the people that got to meet Chris Perkins because he's my hero. So. And then the new VTT was shown off to them. And
Jeremy Crawford's my hero. So
there you go.
I like Chris Perkins, but I'm a Jeremy.
Everyone's got a hero. Some people have the wrong hero, but it's you.
Or Jerry Holkins. So I think Jerry Holkins is,
You're just the Jerrys in general. So,
Jerrys.
I meant Jerry and Jeremy. I'm getting them confused. That was dumb. Dumb joke. Let's all go back in time 5 seconds and pretend it didn't happen.
Yes.
The cool thing about the people that went to the Creator Summit is I think they're getting early access to the VTT, which will be interesting moving forward to see how its evolution and changes. As far as like a 3D kind of video game version of the VTT, you saw the D&D Direct stuff. What did you, how do you think you'll jump on board with something like this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the draw for you?
Now, I'm a Roll20 super fan. All of the online gaming I do is with Roll20.
Correct.
If anybody asks me about a VTT, I always recommend Roll20. I know there are other ones out there, but I love the ease of use and setting a game up and even testing games in Roll20, and being able to run a game in Roll20 is awesome. So this is all coming from superfan Roll20. The one thing I don't have in Roll20 is the feeling of moving a miniature on a table board, which gets me just a tiny bit closer to being like I'm at the table again. Because I can't play most of my games because the people I play with are in different states. The reality of being able to get to play at a table with people using Forge tiles and all that stuff, and then your painted miniatures from Hero Forge and playing in that style, I just don't get that. So the only way I'm going to get it is digitally. And then if you're going to try that, you're looking at something like I think it's like Board Game Simulator can do a little bit of that, and there's another one, but it's like moving miniatures around on a cool terrain set that's very tactical. I love that. I don't think anybody needs it if you're doing theater of the mind, but if you love a tactical...
Yeah. And I would actually argue, I think it's less for the tactical side. I think Roll20 is better for tactical because it's that top-down view. I get to see I get to see the whole board, whereas I think this is going to be more for story. And the reason I say that is Kugo the Mighty, I was in a game that he ran, an Eberron game, and the finale fight, he built everything in Tailspire, which looks almost identical to what I saw with the VTT from Wizards of the Coast. And so we were in there. We didn't have control of stuff because Kugo built it. So he was like, where do you want to go? And he kind of moved us around. But it was this like top-down third-person perspective of our characters, and we're trudging through a forest, and we look over, an airship, it's on fire. We get on the deck, there's a monster, we have a big fight. There wasn't the cool spell animations, but it was mind-blowing. Like I was like, I've never played D&D like this. This is so cool. But and the reason I wanted to talk to you about this is like, I know you love Roll20, but I also know you love the tactics of it. And I don't think this will be the same tactic level. I think you will get the, wow, that fireball looks pretty. Or, oh my gosh, magic missile does this. That's so cool. And I'm wondering if it'll translate into people building modules, like specific adventures, not unlike the Neverwinter Nights had a huge online fan base of people building little things using that toolkit. And I don't think anyone actually ran their D&D game with it, but they did run solo adventures that you could then play through. And I have a feeling that this VTT will be similar. I think it'll wow us in the beginning, and then I was wondering if it would actually translate to, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm curious, but I don't think it's going to be the logical step of, oh, I play on Twitch with my friends and now we're all going to play on this VTT. I think there will still be a place for Owlbear Rodeo and things like that.
Sure.
So,
yeah. There's something to be said with being able to see the 3D representation of the world, though, that brings you to something you don't get with the 2D representation. And the very first thing that when Lucian gets his hands on this tool set is he's going to build Temple of Elemental Evil square for square, 5 foot square for 5 foot square.
I mean, Tomb of Horrors in a 3D environment would be pretty badass too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and if they can do the thing where you can only see what your character would see, which is one of the things that is really cool about a lot of the VTTs these days, you have Fog of War where they can't see stuff, which makes Roll20 really fun. But I also think that if you can only see what's in the room, or you can only see what's, not behind something, so you don't see that token there unless you have line of sight, that would really make it cool. But there's something about the Hero Forge minis and having miniatures that I still connect with. I'm still a big gamer of tabletop war games like Warhammer and Warhammer 40K, that kind of stuff, those kinds of battles. And I still love the idea. And if they're smart, they'll put in a painting miniature. You can paint your own miniature tool in there so that you could have the little 3D model of your character, and you could paint their cloak red, and you could paint their sword silver. And if you could do that in game, because Brandon Sanderson is part of a game that lets you do that now, and it's more of a tactical turn-based game, but you get to paint your miniatures that you're playing with. And it's blowing up because people love the idea of being able to paint their own miniatures. And I think if you can bring that if they brought that into this virtual tabletop for Dungeons and Dragons, so now you get the rule set is there, you get a 3D representation, you can paint those things in a nice, easy, fun way. You've got a lot of hobbyists that can jump in on that and do a lot of different things with just bringing that live. So I think it's cool. There are plenty of VTTs out there. There's new ones every year. We've saw Alchemy is out now, and all these other ones are pushing what they can do because the competition's gotten so fierce that they all have to have these cool features, which just makes it great for us who want to run these games. I'm excited for it. I want it for sure.
And ultimately, I think it'll come down to what are you mostly playing, and what resources are you investing into it? Because I bet there's a lot of Roll20 people that are like, I have all the books in Roll20, I have all of this. I've been playing. There was a Steam sale for what is it called? That's on the tip of my brain. Fantasy Grounds. There was a Steam sale for Fantasy Grounds, and I bought that. And so I've been playing around with Fantasy Grounds, and I was like, I really like it. I think it's kind of cool. But you have to buy books, D&D or DCC or things like that. And so it's like, well, if I mostly play this and I'm already kind of involved in this, and D&D Beyond, it's if they just integrate everything with D&D Beyond, I bet a lot of people already have the books on D&D Beyond, and so it would be a logical transition. So, and I think that's what they're betting on. So we'll see. But
yeah, I've spent Storm King's Thunder. I spent $40 buying it when it first came out for Roll20, so I have that module. I bought a couple of Pathfinder modules that I want to run on there, and then so I'm always going to be a Roll20 fan, just because, like you just said, I've already put $50-$60, and I pay a monthly fee so I can host all the games. I can have, I don't think it's unlimited, but it's like unlimited number of games that I can host for people to play as a dungeon master. And so I'm paying a monthly service for that. So I'm the perfect target for these types of things for Dungeons and Dragons VTT to say, I don't even pay the D&D Beyond one because I'm paying the Roll20 one. I always weigh which one's more important to me, and Roll20 still comes up because I have all my modules and stuff there.
It's actually a little interesting if they repurpose a lot of the, what's the word? If they repurpose... If going back to our conversation, like if it's going to be 5.5 and I actually have to buy new books in order to play this updated version of 5th edition, that is going to also be a tipping point where it's like, well, if I have to rebuy the books, I might as well do it on this new platform, as opposed to if I can already use my 5th edition material, I'm going to stay on Roll20, And so we'll see. I don't know.
Well, in Pathfinder, it is partnered with Nexus, and Nexus was the group of people that did D&D Beyond before they moved on. So that's another competitor that is almost, I know they're in deep, development right now, but I'm thinking we should be seeing some stuff before the end of the year that's going to make them a real competitor too.
And I mean, I think Adam Branford, I was like Adam Branford, Adam has created, I mean, D&D Beyond, he did a really good job of building that and creating it. And I think Critical Role was also a big part of that. So I have high hopes for Nexus. I think it'll be really interesting. So speaking of Paizo, you were mentioning earlier, the Orc license came out. This is a draft. So they want feedback on like what it should look like, but this is the one that they're gonna create, and they're gonna put it into Creative Commons. They're gonna create a LLC that is in charge of this, like a nonprofit, so that it is out of the hands of Paizo. Because unlike the original OGL license, that is Wizards of the Coast, they own the license, so hypothetically they could change it. This one will not be able to be changed. Much like Creative Commons, because Creative Commons is its own LLC that it kind of just stays there legally through the legal things. I haven't read through this, but I wanted to bring it up because I think it's a big slap in the face to Wizards of the Coast, because it blatantly says draft only, feedback requested, all over this. Like, it's a watermark, it's at the top, it's all over. And for Wizards of the Coast to be able to, like, they were like, no, the leaked one that you saw was only a draft. And it's like, well, why didn't you put the word draft on it? Or like not an actual license or feedback requested. And I feel like Paizo is throwing some shade at Wizards by doing that. Maybe not. Maybe it's just me, but I like to think so. So we'll see.
Yeah. This is the license, so it's not the game engine itself.
Correct.
But it's the license to So
it's the license to say I want to use these mechanics in my game. Much like I want to use these 3rd edition mechanics in my game X, Y, and Z. So there's that. Yeah. So, and then they also came out with something else. It's on the website, but it's the Orc AXE, the axe. And I thought this was probably, answers and explanations. Okay, never mind. I thought this was going to be more of the gameplay, but I think this is just the license they want to use going forward. But with it in Creative Commons, I don't know if we really need to anymore. It's kind of interesting to think about that. It's probably still good in the long run.
I think they're gonna, so I'm trying to think of all the people that are using it, because I saw a couple of other posts that they were using the Orc license in some other areas. I think even Chaosism was one of the
Chaosium.
Something like
yeah, and it might be
they're putting their engines or their game systems under the Orc license, right? So it's like, and that means then you can use their game system, but it's under the Orc license, gives you the permission to do that.
Correct. Yeah. And so the original OGL was just hey, things that have been submitted as open game content or whatever it was called, that you could then pull from those pieces and also say, but here are the things that are distinct to my game that I want you to not be part of the OGL. And so it was really just an understanding. I guess we're going back into topics from January, but it really was just hey, we're not going to sue you because we can't really copyright a dice roll. So here's our way of saying we're not going to do that. And then when they came out with the OGL 2.0, it was like, so really Paizo's just trying to say we're going to honor the original agreement that Wizards dishonored. So dishonor upon your house.
And it makes sense. We're bringing it up mostly just because a lot of things were getting released, which were the results of us talking about, or not us talking about, but the community talking about that. Just like this one with Tales of Valiant is a Kickstarter that's coming from Cobalt Press, which we knew as the Project Black Flag.
Correct.
But it's under the Core Fantasy Rules open license. But then the thing they're creating using the license is Tales of Valiant. Yeah. So you're getting the license, but you're also getting something created under that. So that's the example of it's really two things happening there that are working together. If it's all
so core fantasy role playing could be something that you put into the orc, I think. But Tales of Valiant will not necessarily be in there. It will be Tales of Valiant is their spin on it. And that one's kind of unique because they're all building off of the Creative Commons foundation of 5th edition. So that
Kickstarter comes in
interesting
May.
stuff.
I just wanted, that was a D20 system. But then the other one that I saw was the
Chaosium.
They on DriveThru RPG right now, you can buy their basic role-playing universal game engine, which is a D100 system, and I think they reference the Orc license in their thing too.
Oh, so really? Okay.
It's like all these different people are kind of referencing all these different open licenses that they're releasing these games under, and encouraging you to say, "Hey, you can buy our game engine," thinking of 5e as an engine or these other systems as an engine, to build your own game, so that you can then publish it or do a Kickstarter on it, and it's based on this, and it's all okay for you to do that kind of thing. And then it was, I feel like those
under
were the
Orc
three
license,
that I saw.
Yeah. They're releasing the update under the Orc license, so that's cool. So basic role playing, which is D100, roll under. And this is an updated version of it. I've never played this universal system, but it sounds like it's used with Call of Cthulhu a lot, so.
Which is super popular.
Oh, and RuneQuest
at some point.
You know, I have a box set that's a fan bought me, and I really should play it. I read through it. It's a fun game, and then I bought the older version on a Kickstarter. They did a reprint of like the old 1980s Sandy Peterson Call of Cthulhu that I picked up, and I'm like, okay. But yeah, basic role playing, Tales of Valiant, another Kickstarter coming in May. Cold Press always does really good, so I'm sure we'll see a lot of that. Quick shout out, there's a 13th Age Humble Bundle. 13th Age is a phenomenal RPG that I have yet to play, but I had a lot of friends that somebody ran them through it, and then that friend moved away, and they keep talking about this 13th Age game that I wasn't a part of, and I'm a little jealous that I didn't get to play it with them. But boy, it's like $18 or something for 28 PDFs. $18 for 28 PDFs, or you can just do like $1 and get quick start rules and stuff like that. So that's over on Humble Bundle. I'll put a link in the show notes and the comment, and I'll put it in the thing down below here too. And then talk to me about Carbon Gray. What is this?
Yeah, it just popped up out of nowhere. I was
definitely read through the entire quick start rules this morning. Very intrigued by this.
Because what popped out to me, the word that got me was diesel punk, right? And I was just scrolling through something, and diesel punk popped out at me. I thought, oh, wait a minute here. Steampunk's kind of cool. I get it. I'm not necessarily a person that goes to the steampunk things or has been very steampunky, but I understand it. I get the aesthetic to it. But then I saw the word diesel punk, and I thought, wait a minute, is this really the group I need to be a part of? Because that just sounds cool. And I started looking at all the artwork, and then I saw that it was a D6 system. So that immediately brought up flags to say, hey, I should send this over to Jordan, because I know he's building D6 systems left and right. And you just redid a bunch on your D6 system that you were doing your modular D6. So it was like, we're always tweaking and playing around with D6 mechanics.
I just love it.
To see possible, and I thought, I'm going to put this one up. So I don't know much more about except what we read. I think the artwork looks great. It looks like it's a
well. First of all, let's talk about what it is. So
Gray.
This is called Carbon Gray, and it's a comic book graphic novel of the same name that they're adapting into a role-playing game. So and then Diesel Punk really, it feels Mad Max. Like it's kind of this post-apocalyptic, relying on fossil fuels, lots of grimy, dirty people with pistols and things like that.
Yeah, I would say like steampunk is like Victorian age meets stuff. This feels like World War II age meets stuff, diesel punk, or World War I, like past the Victorian age. So because like some planes I'm looking in here look like old World War II planes, but they're slightly modified in a different way. And I'm just like, there's Zeppelins and stuff going on in this stuff that's really cool, but it's more more themed.
World War One is a really good comparison, yeah. But like also weird technologies. So lots of guns. There's lots of guns in this game. And yeah, it's the D6 system by West End Games, commonly known as Open D6 now. They have modified it to be the D6 DV? D6 MV system is what they're calling it.
Yeah, MV.
Which stands for magnetic version because they are magnetic press. And I went through magnetic press. I was trying to find other games that they've made. This might be this is the first one I've ever heard of. So, but I
hadn't heard of them before.
But they have quick start rules that you can download. And reading through the quick start rules, I own the Open D6 the PDFs. I don't have physical books because I think you can do print on demand, but they're out of print. But West End Games was really cool. Before they went under, they said, let's just give away this rule set. So they just put it out there, and it's free and it's open to use and it's awesome. These quick start rules explain. I didn't see a lot of differences with the Open D6 system from West End Games and this one, which is fine because they're just modifying it, and they're also like it's the D6 system by West End Games. They do an excellent job of explaining it. I can't tell you how often I've gotten confused reading the original PDFs from West End Games and how I'm like, I don't really understand how this works. Are you serious that I have like a 34 to hit sometimes? Like, it doesn't make any sense. They did a great job. They're like, here's your static defense, here's that. And they streamline it to a very understandable level. And the quick start PDF is free, so you can pick it up.
Yeah. The blurb I saw is that they wanted to use West End Games D6 system, but they wanted to take it back to the original version of the D6 system because West End Games had a couple of different versions, but then they wanted to streamline it and make it easier to understand, but still paying homage to the first D6 version system that West End Games had played. So,
and from what I've read,
back to that original and streamlining it.
Yeah, from what I read, I think they exactly did that. Like, it's very, very, it's easy. It's a lot easier to pick up and understand. And they even have little references where they're like, if you've played Star Wars D6, then you'll recognize this. But we've kind of adapted it and streamlined it to be this. So, carbon gray. And the art looks really cool. It's very, it's kind of got like an anime vibe to it. I don't know. So
very stylized, very cool.
So I want to check this out. And I guess I have my eye on it. I will say that Diesel Punk is not like my entire cup of tea, and the quick start rules don't go into any of the supernatural abilities you have. So for reference, in Star Wars D6, you had all of your, here's what we can do as Star Wars people, but then there was a secret stat of like force and how force sensitive you were. This game also has a secret stat. I forget what they call it. But it's basically anything that's going to be supernatural, like magic, telekinetic powers, the occult, things like that. So you could get like a Hellboy kind of scenario, like you're, fighting Nazis in your plane, but you actually have something on your side that's going to help you. And characters that unlock that have some extra cool potential and stuff. So and
I see a little blurb here that says Carbon Gray is the first of many tabletop games to be released by Magnetic Press Play. So this obviously is the first one why you didn't find any, and it sounds like maybe they have plans for more. Yeah,
well, if you go to their homepage, they have like My Friend Toby graphic novel. Like, they have a lot of stuff, but I think I haven't seen a lot of
Dark Horse Comics, DC Comics, Marvel Comics. They've got a lot of comic book.
A lot of these are comic books, because Lupin the Third, 50 years of Lupin the Third. I don't know, like, but I think this might be their not first foray, I should say, but like, they're making games. That's cool.
That's cool. I could see the comic book industry using their artists and their writers to say, hey, we could make some tabletop game product stuff too, because look how good we are at making comic books.
Well, and if you have the layouts and stuff, you're right there. And then the Open D6 system, it's free. Like, I'm sure they're just like, why don't we try it? So, and it's a good system. Like, I like the D6. I mean, obviously I have a secret love of D6 systems. So,
very cool.
Anyway, so thank you for sharing that with me, because I thought that was really neat.
Yeah.
But so what's going on with CJ? Well, you're excited
So
about this.
Cloudbreaker Alliance is in their play test. Started this last week. I went through some of the play test rules, which are cool. I really enjoy kind of looking at these new systems so far, and I made a character just to see how long it would take me. It took me about 30 minutes to make the first character, level 1 character. I made an Oni that is part of the brute discipline, and then you pick your class is Spartan out of that. So it's like these disciplines, and then there's 2 classes that are underneath that. And so as you level up, you might get some discipline abilities that anybody in the discipline gets, but then you also have class abilities that you get only if you're in that class. Almost like, like in Dungeons & Dragons, where when your subclasses, like at 3rd level, you get some subclass stuff, but then at 4th level, it's regular cleric stuff. But then at 6th level, you get some subclass stuff.
Yeah.
And then it's regular, kind of similar to that in some ways.
And I want to say Cloudbreaker Alliance, this is a role-playing game that's playtesting by the Don't Stop Thinking YouTube channel. He's been on your show, or this show.
Yeah. We did an interview.
His name's CJ, and he's really cool. And he just has a passion of RPGs. And so he's like, I want to make my own. And it looks very anime and
inspired,
Asian influenced, which a lot of like monsters and stuff. So it looks really cool.
When I talked to him, when we did the interview, he was living in Australia, but he's really heavy into understanding Japanese RPGs and even Chinese culture. He's done a lot of videos on Chinese history and Chinese stuff. So if you see his videos, and he does all this really cool animated video stuff, so that's why I always watched him. And he used to do how to play Dungeons and Dragons videos too, with animated shorts and stuff that a lot of people loved. So that's how I've been following this whole time. And then when he talked about doing Cloudbreaker Alliance, which to me was like Final Fantasy tabletop role-playing game.
It looked like
what it feels like to me. And because I could play an Oni, or there's all these different heritages that they have and stuff, and I just like the idea that the artwork looks really good. He's putting a lot of effort and work into it. He's going to release all the stuff with YouTube videos backing it up, and the very first YouTube video shows a lot about it, and then he just talks about the magic system. He hasn't shown the playtest rules for the magic system yet, but the magic affinity system looks to be really cool and something that we haven't seen a lot in tabletop role-playing games. We have a lot of Vancian magic. We've had very little, slots, a few point magic stuff here and there, but not like very mana much. Points. I've been waiting to see somebody that breaks out of the Vancian kind of mold of magic, and I feel like this might be one of those. Anime styled in that way, anime fantasy style in that way. But I think it's really cool. I'm going to try next. I'm going to try to make a character that has magic abilities, because obviously when you make a character that's maybe a fighting character, you can go through and do that in about 35 minutes. But we all know that when you make a character that has spells to select or something, that usually makes your character creation take a little longer, because now it's just one more piece to add to your character. So I'm going to see how that works as my second character. Character sheet worked really well. He provides all those. I'm excited. I'm going to offer feedback, and I'm going to follow it nonstop, because it's just one of those ones that I think CJ is a great guy, and I couldn't think of a better person to put together a role-playing game. And then the way he thinks, the way he goes through things is very methodical, and he has reasons for all the choices he's making and stuff. So it's just one that I'm excited to follow, and we'll always bring some news to the show about Cloudbreaker Alliance. So go to his channel if you want to know anything. Just type in Don't Stop Thinking in YouTube, and it'll bring him right up, and then you'll see his latest video out is about the play test and what's going on with Cloudbreaker Alliance. And see if you like it.
No, it's on our watch list, so I'm excited. Pathfinder news. So I saw just a couple of things. Lost Omens Firebrand's book is out. So this is a book they put out that has to do a lot with, I guess, rebellion, which makes sense because they were raising the flag during the old OGL debacle. They were on top of promoting their Pathfinder during that whole process when everybody was down on D&D. And so apparently Firebrands is about revolution and about fighting the oppressors and all the types of characters, and they call it their inner seas. The inner seas. I always think it's funny because Dungeons and Dragons has like the Sword Coast. Pathfinder has the inner seas, as they always reference it. So it's
character options, ways to play them in your campaign. It is a group. It's like maybe like a Harper's would be an equivalent, maybe something like that.
Faction. Every game has factions.
Faction that you can bring in, which I thought was interesting. So that is out now. They have both hardcover books, one with a special edition book cover, and then the normal one. The other thing I saw that was interesting is they've partnered with BKOM or BCOM, which is a company, a computer game company. They released some stuff on Steam that they're going to partner to do 2 games. And these are kind of like those adventure story games. So I wonder if that's what we'll get from this. But the only announcement they gave us was they're partnered. They're going to do 2 games. One comes out this year on Steam. One is just now entering development, is later on. But we'll hear more about those games, what they are, what the names of them are. And they are based on Pathfinder properties. So we'll have to see what they are. And I think that'll be interesting. We should be hearing about that soon. In fact, probably at PaizoCon is when we might hear some stuff online. And that's May 26th through May 29th. Okay. If anybody's going to be participating in the PaizoCon online. So I thought
is that, and that's just online?
I saw.
Do they have an actual?
This is the online convention.
I would thought they would have something, but that's cool. Awesome. PaizoCon. Fantastic.
So if you're not doing anything in that May, and that's like Memorial Day weekend, right? If it's at the end of the month, probably it's got to be close to it.
I would like them to do a video game to break out of the isometric and actually do like a story game, like a point and click adventure story game using
I think
Pathfinder.
That's what they're doing.
Is that what it is? Because that would be really interesting to me. Okay. I like it.
Yeah.
I've been playing Thimbleweed Park, which is a point and click adventure game, and remembering my love of them from the early 90s. Game wise, my house
what did Jordan
just
play?
destroyed, so I haven't been able to do much. And actually, we can't play DCC this weekend, and I'm sad. Purple Planet will have to take a vacation because I gotta work on my life, and actually, I got a lot of video stuff I want to try and do tomorrow. So, but we did play our Black Company game. We infiltrate. This is my 5e game with DM Nathan that he's running, and we infiltrated. We got to a city. And the city has a giant open pit to hell, and all these demons are spewing out. We have a way to close it, but we don't really have a way of getting in amongst the hordes of devils and demons that are there. So we're trying to figure out how to get close enough to close it without basically making a suicide mission / not being successful and also dying. But nearby, we found there was a volcano. So we were wondering if we could set the volcano to go off to like basically destroy the city, but get the demons to run out, and then we could like run in and close the portal. That was kind of the idea. But we found out that this volcano is actually a home base to a larger problem, probably the people that are instigating the actual portal to hell and things like that. And while we were investigating, a mind flare teleported in, and lots of and you know, action economy. I'm like, okay, it's just a single mind flare. Like, they're spooky, but I think we can take it. And I don't know what level this was. I kind of want to ask, but at the same time, it's kind of exciting that you don't know. He had legendary actions, so there was a lot of that. But we positioned ourselves just right that only a few of us got mind blasted and things and what have you. But it was a lot of taking the fighter down because of stunned with mind blast and then all this other things. And this Illithid is casting spells left and right. He ended up raising his finger, and he did like finger of death, I'm pretty sure, and it insta-killed our gnome, who just like meh, and I was like, ugh! And so I ran in and grabbed the stunned fighter and used my cloak of teleportation to like bamf him out basically, so that he could like be far enough away from the Illithid that maybe he could like roll a saving throw and actually like snap out of it. And so we did a lot of that. Nathan has a habit of when bosses like this are about to die, they run and they teleport away. So he cast teleport to get out of there. We tried to counterspell it, but we failed. And I'm like, want to kill these guys. And he makes it so frustrating. But in all honesty, like as frustrated as I am, we need to just come up with a plan to prevent him from teleporting in the future now that we know we can do it. But the last game we ran, I refused to take Counterspell because I didn't like it. And the entire party was upset with me because every time somebody would teleport away, they're like, you could counter it. And I'm like, yeah, I just hate Counterspell. I wish there was a better way to do it. So I think my character, I want to try and create like an anti-magic bubble that I can like attach to them so that they can't get away. I think that would be a lot of fun. So I'm going to talk to him about making magic items because I'm an artificer. So, and then at the very end, I ran up and cast Revivify on our poor gnome. So he is survived, but it was like, ooh, you're dead. Like, yeah. And power word kill and lots of scary spells. Other than that, I've been reading my Dying Earth box set and having a lot of fun, and I'm taking lots of notes because it is very different from regular GCC, and I'm going to do a spotlight video and then a bunch of other videos, I think, on the Jocular Junction channel, where I'm just like, here's how a magician plays differently from a wizard. So that's my plan for that. But yeah, how's Dungeon of the Mad Mage?
Very cool. We are fighting 2 illithids at the same time.
Always got to one-up me.
They are definitely trying to mind blast our crew, but our crew seems to have powers against that our rolls have been pretty good, our saves have been pretty good. So we're uniquely equipped to go after these. Now we are pretty high level at this point, so who wouldn't be at 16, 17 level, or 15 or 16? Yeah, I think it's 16 at this point, so it's kind of crazy. And we fought. I bet Jordan knows this as a Forgotten Realms aficionado. What happens to a tadpole if it's left alone and doesn't attach to a host and eats all the other tadpoles and becomes something?
Oh, a Mind Flare tadpole.
But it becomes a purple.
Yeah, it's worm? a giant like worm dragon looking thing. Yeah,
that we fought too. Yeah. We fought one of those. So we're getting into all of the illithids, and then right at the end of the session, we had the big booming voice in our head that said, "You guys are pretty powerful. I am also pretty powerful. If we go head to head, we're probably going to destroy each other. Are you sure you really want to do this?" kind of thing. So it was like this standoff of it. And it was like this offer of, if you leave me alone, I'll leave you guys alone. But my crew is like, we're not leaving no illithid alive. So we're on full clean out this colony in the Dungeon of the Mad Mage. So we're excited to go illithid hunting.
Oh yeah,
this is like Xeno hunting in Aliens. This is like, you have to burn them all. You have to get them off the ship. You can't leave one alive because there's no way. Even one starts the whole problem again, So it's like, nope. So it's going to be interesting to go through and see how powerful this thing is. It seems like it's pretty powerful, whatever thing we're coming up against. So we fought 2 of them that are probably the normal illithids. But I am sure there are more and more powerful ones as we go that have more and more powerful abilities. We do have a NPC Gith Zerai with us, which is cool. He's kind of like a monk that's in the south, which is cool. So we're getting to see some of the Gith Zerai abilities. There is a group of Gith Yankee that we can try to call on also to assault this colony. So that may happen too, where we have an alliance or at least a common enemy that we can come together and try to defeat. So maybe we'll have a nice Gith Yankee war band going in with us too, which could be really fun. So it's heating up in the Dungeon of the Mad Mage. It surprises me how, I wonder if Hallister has kind of come up in certain levels and interacted with us, right? And in most of it's been like, ha ha ha, welcome to my fun house. Look at all the funny stuff you're doing and look how you fell for this. But I wonder, we haven't seen or heard from him in a while, and I wonder just at what point does Hallister let an illithid colony in his dungeon, right, or his area? What about his apprentices? We've seen a couple of them, but we haven't seen all of them yet. What are they doing? We're getting that low down. We did go to the Stardock. There was no Spelljammer there, but it was in the tier of Saloon. So I can say I've had a character who's adventured on one of the tiers of Saloon, which I think is a great thing that will stick with us forever. It was a creche. So it's where the Githyanki are raising their young. Because did you know in the Astral Sea, you do not age? So you can't have kids in the Astral Sea.
Well, when you have kids, you have to go back to the prime material plane so that they can get old enough.
Doing. Yeah. So that's where we've entered.
And then when you become an adult as a Gith, when you become an adult, you have to go out and kill a mind flayer and bring back the mind flayer's head, and then you're allowed to go into the Astral Sea. Yeah.
The guy we're dealing with has a mind flayer head on his belt.
There you go.
For one. So there you go. So all this is coming. And here's one other cool little tidbit that we're all learning is that they have a pact and they raise red dragons.
Oh.
And they are allowed to use, and the red dragons work with them and are used as mounts and stuff up until a certain age. But then once the red dragon reaches a certain age, that red dragon gets to choose to be released or go do whatever it wants. And apparently that's a deal they struck with the queen herself. Queen of Dragons.
Oh, the Queen of Dragons. Okay.
Yeah. Cool. So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing that I didn't know lore-wise either.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you know,
interesting
with Planescape coming out and stuff, and the talk of Vecna from the D&D Direct, and the talk of the Obsidian obelisks and stuff, we're gonna I wonder how much we'll be able to look back on these older adventures and really see how interconnected things were. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So the monster you were thinking of is the Neothalid, which is the giant. Yeah. So if an Elderbrain is killed, all of the tadpoles are free of the Elderbrain's will, and they start devouring each other till there's one left. And that last tadpole grows into this giant, gargantuan aberration worm. And they're not intelligent, but they're just like hungry and stuff. And so it's interesting because you need the tadpoles to create mind flayers. So that this is how they reproduce, but this is a tadpole that wasn't implanted in a host.
Yeah, like a feral one.
Yeah, so it just like got loose and got big and is weird. And apparently, I was just reading this now, mind flayers can't detect them because of their low intelligence and the fact that they're tadpoles and they're like partly psionic. So mind flayers fear them. Like they're not used as weapons, and they actually kill tadpoles that get too big while they're like working them and stuff. Kind of cool.
I wish I knew that now.
Yeah, kind of interesting.
We had to kill it.
Well, I don't know if you could tame it, but that's kind of cool. So, I need to run a mind flare game, and like I want to use an elder brain and actually fight people with an elder brain and stuff. I
think that's where we're headed.
Yeah, probably. So I also think Halaster doesn't allow. It's not like he allows things, or he just likes chaos. I should say that. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
My Dungeon of the Mad Mage, my Great Modron March people, there's actually a section of the march where the Modrons go into a portal to take a shortcut through Dungeon of the Mad Mage, like through Halaster's dungeon, and then go through another portal that takes them back over there. And I think you said you've ran into Modrons, right?
I've ran into a Modron that was doing a circle around a statue that turned things into stone.
Yeah. So I wonder
Third level.
But like Modrons have popped up a lot in these adventures with that Wizards of the Coast put out for 5th edition. And so part of me wonders too if we're going to see a revival of the Great Modron March with Planescape, and they're going to bring that into a lot of the aspects of like, oh, this is why you're finding these Modrons here and there. So we'll see.
There were some in Tomb of Annihilation, too, as I recall. We fought some Modrons.
Out of the Abyss, there's Modrons. They're always like rogue Modrons that got lost somehow on the Great March, but they reference the Great March a lot. So, but there is specifically on the Great March, there is a path that goes through Halaster's dungeon.
Where.
Yeah.
Is it the 3rd level I wonder.
So
that's interesting.
At least in older 2nd edition material. I haven't read through Dungeon of the Mad Mage specifically, but got lots of videos to make, lots of lore stuff coming up. That's our show, ladies and gentlemen. I gotta go pick up my kid from hanging out with people who are watching them so I can podcast. You can follow us on social media. You can check out, I don't post to it often, but there is a Saturday at Saturday RPG, which is our Saturday RPG show Twitter. Good to see everybody in chat. Thank you guys so much. Ed Greenwood has a YouTube channel. If you haven't checked out, he actually contacted me. What? And we're going to do something together, which is pretty cool.
Oh, nice.
You should definitely check out his channel. And we'll be back next week, I think. Hopefully I'll have a more finished basement. We'll see. But thanks so much for watching, guys. We'll see you
everybody.
next time on Saturday morning RPG show. Take care.